All you need is a number 2 pencil to do this, basically. If you've seen one geode, you've seen them all. But if you're unsure, you can always pull up a reference pic on Google, and that way you have some kind of guide for your eyes. But I feel pretty confident just doing it intuitively. So that's how I'm gonna do. Besides, these pencil marks are just guidelines. I can change them at any time. Now what we've got here is a couple of little shiny, pebbly looking beads that I actually picked up at the Dollar Tree. And we're using good old trusty Elmer's glue here. Nothing fancy going on. I just want it tacked down to where it's not going to move and go anywhere. Because when I get to the stage of the game where I want to do my resin pour, I'm not going to want it to move everything around, as resin tends to do. Resin's a lot thicker and a lot heavier than these little beads, so I need something to kind of anchor them in place. As you can see here, I have this little star shape kind of forming, which is what I wanted. Because the pencil in here is more like guidelines. They're not hard, fast, and set rules. And I do like to make sure that I'm adding a little bit of variation to the shapes. Not too much variation, but I do want to have a few sharp points here and there to give the curvy lines some contrast. And I'm thinking that I'm probably going to go with blue and black resin. Hard to say at this stage. See, I've just been using a little toothpick to kind of nudge those very tiny beads into place to make a border around my white stones. And here I'm going to start making my center, and I've decided that I definitely want to go with some cooler blue against that warmer orange color. So luckily I have little stones like that for days, and you can get a whole bunch of these in bulk if you can't find them at the store. But most craft stores and most dollar stores even will actually surprises me with the things they carry sometimes. I don't expect to find the amount of stuff that I find at good old Dollar Tree sometimes. And as I've been working, you can see I've been kind of fattening up these edges, giving them a little bit of line variation and stone form, I guess you could say. I want to have a little bit of thickness in those curves. That looks like it's coming along. I'm going to take a break from putting down these pebbles, and I'm going to add something a little bit different. Beads. One of my favorite things to add to my art pieces, because nothing I use these for have turned out wrong so far. So I'm hoping to keep that same trend of luck going. But I'm going to add a little bit of variety here. Variety's the spice of life. By adding some of these shiny iridescent beads. And so now all I'm doing is just fluffing it, adding a little bit more where I think the lines could be thicker, just really packing it in close to those white beads there. And as you can see, I even went ahead and put a little bit of that orange in the centerpiece. Sprinkle, sprinkle, there we go. Well, that's starting to look really promising. I like what I have here so far. I'm just gonna cap my glue. I don't think I'm gonna do that outer line. I might not need to. I think what I will do is take some of those thicker pieces and bring them out more to the edge. I think that the lines are still a little bit too close in size, and I want a little bit more variation. Plus, I've got many of these lovely blue gems to spare. And here we are. I think I like the way this came out, and yes, I know I have a few pencil lines showing, but it's not gonna matter. If you really needed to, you could go ahead and erase those, but for the purposes of what I'm about to do, I'm not too concerned with it. I've decided to go with white and black for my geode colors, so I'm just kind of dividing and mixing those up real good. I'm just going to pour into the center there. And just pour again. And I'm just using a very thin little popsicle stick to smooth the resin into little tight, tiny creases it might not want to go into on its own. I see some of the black is coming through where my white's supposed to be, and I feel like I probably, the next time I do one of these, because I do intend to do another one of these, I should probably have not gone ahead and poured the second one so quick. I will probably next time wait for the first layer to dry. Because unless you have really, really viscous sort of resin, it's going to spread. But you know what? I'm going to make it work in my favor. I'm going to turn this into a creative accident. Probably get some kind of yin-yang effect going on, but that is perfectly fine with me. One of the things I do like about the brand of resin that I'm using, the B-Spawn resin, is that it does tend to be very good at sticking to the edges of an object that you want it to stick to. It almost does it too well. Because I may have to go back later and redo the sides. But that's fine. Just gonna go ahead and get that top layer covered. Like I said, I probably should have let that center white and center black dry a little bit more first before adding on, but I'm gonna go ahead anyway. I already poured it, and I want to see what it does, because it may actually end up surprising me and making a nicer effect than I originally had planned. Because now the geode bands are overlapping with the beads, and I might actually prefer that layered look. One of the things you have to be really careful with when you're doing a resin geode, other than perhaps being a little bit more patient with it than I was, is to make sure that the borders that you make for it are thick so that the resin don't overwhelm it. But the good news is that this is a very fixable problem. Even if you do find your pebbles and stones getting overwhelmed by the resin itself, you can always just add a few more. And this time you don't need glue. Because once this stuff cures, it's staying in place.